All right, really happy now from the mayor's office. We have Newburyport Mayor Sean Reardon. And Mr. Mayor, welcome. Nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you too, Rick. Thanks for having me on today.
Well, I feel like I know you because we see so many of your videos. Each month we see the mayor's corner, and it's sort of like when someone on TV is in your living room all the time. But I do appreciate those. Those are fun to listen to. How often do you do? Is it once a month?
No, I do them every week.
Oh, every week. Okay.
And I say that, and I didn't do it this week. So I did take. I have to. This is the first time. The first year I didn't miss a week.
Well,
So this is my second year in office, and so it's pretty quiet right now as far as things I feel like the citizens need to know right this second. So I have taken a week off, and we're going to get back to it next week.
yeah, summertime is a little weird, especially that week around the 4th of July. You know, before we actually get started into some of the topics, I do want to ask you about your time in office now. It's been more than a year. And I like to ask coaches this too when I talk with them. What's the most pleasant surprise you've experienced so far? You go into running for mayor, you have experience, you know what the job entails and what to expect, but I'm sure there's something that has been a little bit more pleasant than you anticipated.
Yeah, well, it's funny. You run for mayor. I was never a mayor someplace else, right? It's one of those jobs that when you run for it, it's most likely your first time ever doing it. So there's definitely been a lot of surprises, both I would say good and challenging, I guess. But I would say that the biggest bright spot is just being able to help people right away on some of the problems that they have in town. Like you really can have that immediate satisfaction of like someone getting in touch with you with the problem, and then you actually have the ability to fix it right away. So I mean, I think that you probably could do that as mayor, but like until you get in the office and you start doing that on a regular basis, you really realize the impact that you can have. Some of these quality of life issues that happen in cities, and how residents look for their local government to help in ways. And again, I think everyone who's in this chair is different, right? So I just try to be as responsive as I can, to my residents, and to have that kind of gratification of being able to do something to help somebody is really great.
Speaking of challenges, how challenging is it when you have a plan, you have things, you have an itinerary, you have an agenda, and I'm sure frequently, if not semi-frequently, things pop up where you can't get to that particular item when you want to. So you have to sort of make adjustments on the fly.
Sure. Yeah, that happens quite a bit. I mean, again, always, if you plan to succeed, right? Like, I mean, you want to have good plans in place, but, because, you work in a municipality and a public organization, every day something comes up, whether it be personnel or a water sewer break and a water sewer main break, or, and it could be anything, beaches, CSO issues from downriver communities causing us to have to close our beach. So, I mean, anything can happen on any given day. So that is frustrating because I do think there is such a pace to how things can proceed through government, especially local government, to get done. Whether it be things I have to work with the city council with, which if it's anything, it's going to take at least a month because it has to get introduced and it has to go to committee and then it has to come out of committee and come back to city council. And then if something happens in between there and that stays in committee, then it throws off, any kind of schedule you had. So I think you have to be flexible, but I still think it's important to have that plan in place, but just realize that you're going to have to be flexible. And then you've got to be able to communicate that to residents. Like even one of the first things I did when I took office, and this is what I heard when I knocked on doors, was our streets and sidewalks. And I'm sure that's in every community. People talk about streets and sidewalks because it just affects everybody. So the first thing I did was put this kind of rolling 5-year plan in place. And we had never had anything like that here in the city before. And I put it on the website. And, even with that, things change, right? People think that their street should be on there. So then we do another reassessment. It's like, oh, you're right. that street probably should be on there. So we have this petition process that you can go through, or you can have a rainy July like we've had, and it's pushed the work back so we finally just finished a couple streets yesterday that have been probably a month overdue as far as completing, which was very frustrating for the residents living on those streets. So again, you can plan as well as you'd like, but sometimes things are out of your control. But I think the way you communicate that, and the mayor's corners each week is one way I do that, can kind of help ease those, those tensions and those frustrations, and just realize, sometimes things take a little longer to get done.
I find, there's a commonality among mayors in the cities, and it seems to me Gloucester and Newburyport are almost sister cities. And I wish Gloucester would take some of the ways that Newburyport has changed its downtown over the last 20 years or so and incorporated it in Gloucester. It's a beautiful place to visit.
Oh,
Get to that
absolutely.
in a second about summer, but just one more thing about challenges, Mr. Mayor. A couple of weeks or a couple of months ago, I guess there was a horrific fatality explosion in Newburyport, and your fire department and all rescue personnel, your office was involved that took care of things very quickly, because that was a major hazard, and also you had an interim fire chief at the time, so everything to an extent worked out well.
Yeah, no, I mean, so it's funny. We were going through that process, and the day of that explosion, May 4th, I was going to let my interim fire chief know that he got the full-time gig. But then 1:30 in the morning, that tragedy happened. So of course I didn't tell him that day. But I got to see firsthand just how I felt so good about my decision by seeing how well he handled that, and also his crew, and just the way we were able to collaborate with all the different state and federal agencies that were involved around dealing with that explosion, with the cleanup, the investigation. So it was really just again, obviously you never want to see a tragedy like that. And obviously our condolences were sent out to Jack O'Keefe's family from Methuen, who tragically lost his life. But I was so proud of the way our departments handled it here in Newburyport, and again, that collaboration with working with our state agencies, working with our federal legislators and the federal agencies that were involved there. So that process is still going, working out there. That company, PCI Sequins, is not currently operating, with any chemicals, and they're still going through the process of really, they haven't even demoed that building yet because there's so many things involved there. It's really a very slow, methodical process. So, but again, yeah, I was very proud of certainly my fire department that day, and all my public safety personnel.
And media accessibility made it so easy to follow along and see what was going on up there with all of the communication that came out of Newburyport in one form or another. Now let's turn to something a little more pleasant. Recently, recently you hosted several teams from Newburyport High School, and we followed the lacrosse team quite a bit here at MSO, and Coach Batchelder. 3 state championships teams from Newburyport High School in one season. The kids must have been, and the coaches must have been thrilled to visit you.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. And like I said, I have young kids, so I have a high schooler and 2 middle schoolers who are also into sports. So I mean, and I grew up. I was a former coach at Newburyport. My dad was a longtime basketball coach, girls basketball coach at Newburyport. So sports, especially NHS sports, are so important to me. So we follow along with all the sports, and to have, like I said, I had them at the city council the other night for a proclamation for them, all 3 teams. But then you throw in the boys soccer team that won in the fall too. So 4 state championship teams in one year for Newburyport is just incredible. And I can't think of a time that we've even had 2, much less 4. And I'm sure we probably had 2 at one point, maybe a cross country and a football in one season. But just really exciting, and just really happy for the kids. And they were all girls teams too, which was just really exciting. I got 2 girls at home. Tennis won back-to-back state titles, and my dad was also the tennis coach, so tennis has a strong hold on my heart as well. Just to see them have the success that they're having right now, and seeing that kind of resurgence of tennis in the community has been fun, because I do think that's kind of secular sometimes. Especially if on the professional level, Americans are doing really well, you can see this like hunger to play tennis, and sometimes it dips a little bit. So right now in Newburyport, we're definitely having a resurgence. And then the lacrosse program has just been great as well. It's been awesome to follow that since its inception. They didn't have lacrosse when I was in high school at Newburyport. So to see the boys and the girls have the runs that they did, girls taking it all the way to the state title, the boys making it to a Final Four, is pretty neat. And then the track team too. I mean, I've followed along track my whole life as well. Yeah, we're just really lucky. I mean, I just think we have a lot of really dedicated coaches, and I think we support athletics here in Newburyport. And again, that's a big part of me being there, is trying to help us get facilities and the things that we need to help our athletes compete and do the best they can. So very lucky, and just one of those seasons you'll never forget here in Newburyport.
Well, the other thing is the student athlete, Kyle Hosden, as athletic director, emphasizes with his coaches and the captains about how they represent the school and the city, and it's just great to see. So I thought that was so cool. You mentioned challenges. I don't know if this is the right question to ask about challenges, but summer presents, I think, a little bit more population problem with towns and cities like Newburyport and Gloucester. You get an influx with respect to the beaches and so on. So with Yankee homecoming coming up and things like that, what are some of the seasonal things that you have to deal with as mayor or as an administration?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think, especially I would say historically old cities like Newburyport too, and I think Gloucester probably the same way, because you do have your built-in challenges of way those cities were set up. We have a beautiful downtown, but we have a lot of one way and smaller streets, and so parking is always an issue. We were able to build a parking garage a few years back that I would say now is getting used on a regular basis like it should, which helps alleviate some of that pressure into the other neighborhoods as far as parking. But I just think that's always going to be the case, because we have a beautiful downtown with restaurants and shops. We have a wonderful boardwalk. We have a rail trail that connects to there for over 3 miles of rail trail for walking and biking. So yeah, that's always going to be a problem that we're going to have to deal with. Another thing this year, which I just had a meeting about, which is funny, but we have a beautiful downtown, and so when you do have so many visitors from outside coming into your town, you obviously want it to you want it to always be beautiful, right, and always look incredible. But the weather this year has been so funny with as much rain as we've received. Keeping up with the weeding and some of the vegetation downtown has been a real challenge, and it's just we're a smaller city. I think it's funny. Sometimes I have people come to my office and compare us to much larger cities. Someone was in here today saying I should go to Lexington. They do a great job. I was like, yeah, well, I think we do a good job too. They're twice the size of us that have more resources. Right. So those are chess challenges that we are constantly thinking about. Yankee Homecoming is obviously one of my favorite weeks of the year. Again, I grew up here, so it's just one of the things I got to do as a kid growing up. And now I think it's their 65th year this year as far as Yankee Homecoming goes. And it's just about 10 days of just a lot of great things going on in the city. So, a lot of it is just great communication with these events that are happening in the city and with our different departments, whether it be harbor master, police, fire, or our Department of Public Services. And so, luckily we have a lot of great people in place, and I think those events typically go out without a hitch. Hopefully we get good rain, and just, we love having people in here in Newburyport to enjoy our city. And, again, the music on the waterfront is probably one of the favorite things, certainly my family, but that people from around the area love to do during that week. So we're really looking forward to it.
Anything else, Mr. Mayor, you'd like to mention?
No, I've got a pretty good gig. Like I said, this was my dream job, right? So I'm 18 months in, I'm still enjoying it. We're getting a lot of things done. We have a lot of good projects that are about to start this summer. One of my main priorities is finding a home for our Newburyport Youth Services Department. So that's a big thing that we'll be working on this fall, coming forward with design. And we've got a couple of big parks projects that will be happening here. Probably won't affect Yankee Homecoming, so it'll be after Yankee Homecoming. But we're looking to make our park even bigger and more beautiful on the waterfront. And then we have another park right up at the top of State Street called Bartlett Mall, which is houses one of the oldest active courthouses in the country. But we're going to do some work there too to restore that to former glory. So we've got a lot of great things going on in the city. And the summer is fun because it is busy, but like this is when a lot of the work gets done too. It's nice being able to drive around and seeing all the great things getting done, whether it be big projects like that or even streets and sidewalks getting repaired. Good time to be in Newburyport.